Welcome to the Movie Planet. I'm your host, Ethan Downing. When I first created this channel, I told myself that I was going to be committed to putting out original content. I wasn't just going to review a movie that 40 or 50 other jamokes already gave their 2 cents on, because there's no more meat on the bone for me to chew on and have an original take. But Land of the Lost 2009 is the exception, because nobody likes this movie besides me. I mean, nobody on YouTube.
All I personally want in return is a good film that stands on its own 2 legs, which this doesn't so much.
Would Will Ferrel grow up and show a little bit more respect for Land of the Lost? Absolutely not. This is my review of the 2009 Land of the Lost starring Will Ferrel. Ugh.
Review. If I'm being honest, I just thought it would make for some funny content because it looks like a giant piece of
Every critic has something awful to say about it, but not in this video. This video is a celebration of Land of the Lost. According to the Bomb Report, which is a website you never want to end up on, Land of the Lost had a budget of $100 million and a worldwide gross of $68,777,554. They also made $25.8 million on DVD and Blu-ray sales. In 2009, I contributed to that $68 million when my dad took me to see the movie in theaters when I was 11 years old. This movie does mean a lot to me. It's on my top 100 list. I've seen it so many times. I do think it's one of Will Ferrell's best films and the best sci-fi comedy ever. I'm not just saying that to be a contrarian because so many people hate it. I'm also not saying I love it because I'm swept up in 2000s nostalgia. I loved it in 2009, and I've loved it all the years since then on DVD. I believe, contrary to what I said before, that I'm not alone in thinking this film is great. This video is for all the fans that love it just as much as I do. This movie was a really big deal for Will Ferrell. This was the first time in his career that he would do a movie with this much action. This was before he would do The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg, which was a box office hit. Ferrell was trying to pivot his career with this film. He was imagining himself to be a Chris Pratt type of actor, someone who's funny but could also be cast in a big budget franchise and carry the film really well with or without comedy. Ferrell was very hopeful about this film.
Cosmic dumping ground from the future and the past. You can have any sort of scenario there. So I think it's well suited for a return.
What do you think about?
So sad. A Land of the Lost sequel would have been so awesome. Now I'm going to go over why it failed. Then afterwards, I'll discuss why it's still the greatest sci-fi comedy ever made. The production of the film began on March 4th, 2008. Remarkably, it only had 1 week of filming on a soundstage with green screens. I figured there would be way more green screens than that. There definitely would be a lot more if it was filmed today, because of all the CGI and special effects that are used in films. The rest of the movie was shot in the Dumont Dunes, in the Mojave Desert, the La Brea Tar Pits, and Trona, California. All in all, the biggest reason it flopped in theaters was because people were too connected to the original Land of the Lost show. Every time a remake is made, it must walk the line of being an original story with a familiar theme, while also not going in a completely different direction and not looking at any of the source material, not making a shot-for-shot remake either. To be honest, the best recipe for success is remaking a movie that had little to moderate success that happened so long ago that no one remembers it. So the remake is not judged so harshly as a remake, but as an original film. Such is the case with The Wizard of Oz and Scarface. Now, you would think, based on that information, the original Land of the Lost show from 1974 that was canceled after 3 seasons would be the perfect IP to bring back. But you'd be wrong. Even though the original series is total cringe to watch now, it was a Saturday morning cult classic for children in the 70s. The show went on to receive a daily syndication from 1978 to 1985, and reruns continued to air on CBS until the 1991 remake show that lasted for another 2 seasons. So, from the outside looking in, you might see Land of the Lost as a show that no one would care about preserving in a modern remake, when in reality, the show never really went away, and it continues to have an earnest fan base to this day. Netflix is currently in development of a reboot in 2025, 50 years later. From the fans' perspective, imagine you were born in the mid to late 60s and watched Land of the Lost as a children's show that stars a man and his 2 children, that had a lot of good memories and nostalgia that you carried in your childhood. Now it's 2009 and you're 40 and you have teenagers in your house and you find out they're making an adult comedy that's PG-13 about the children's show you grew up with. The children are going to be played by adults and the star is Will Ferrell. If you're not a fan of Will Ferrell, then the thought of Land of the Lost being turned into Step Brothers
I'm gonna put my nutsack on your drum set!
is horrifying. And if you grew up watching reruns and you have small children, you don't want to take them to see the adult comedy PG-13 version. You want to show them the original children's version. But, and there's always a but, if you're a legitimate Will Ferrell fan and you loved his films up until 2009, which is a great catalog of films, if you love Will Ferrell comedy, you will absolutely love this film. Land of the Lost is a sci-fi version of Anchorman. Another important shift in Will Ferrell's career takes place in this film, where Will Ferrell plays the straight man. He plays the David Spade / Ben Stiller role, where other comedic actors can come in and be the crazy guy, all the while bouncing comedy off the straight man. In Along Came Polly, Ben Stiller is the straight man, and Philip Seymour Hoffman plays the crazy best friend. In Tommy Boy, David Spade is the straight man, and Chris Farley is clearly the crazy guy. This comedy does the comedy duo so well in Will Ferrell and Danny McBride. This is the first film I've ever seen with McBride. I loved him in Your Highness with James Franco and Natalie Portman. He is so great. Land of the Lost is peak Will Ferrell. For me, it goes in the category of Will Ferrell classics. Some other fun facts about the movie is that the first trailer for the film came out during Super Bowl 43, and Subway restaurants paid to appear and be mentioned in the film.
14,000 calories later, I found myself down at Subway, powering through a 12-inch veggie on whole wheat, battling to cut out a Jared. Still didn't give me the strength to turn that thing on.
They had cross promotions included in the deal.
He wants the new Tuscan chicken melt.
Tuscan chicken melt.
Nice to see you again.
Sensational. 2 summer blockbusters, one now at Subway and the other on screen. The new Tuscan chicken melt. Seasoned chicken and melted cheese with 9 grams of fat. Only at
19 Subway locations received a full Land of the Lost transformation. This picture didn't age well. They released limited edition Land of the Lost cups across the country, which I then scoured the internet for and impulse bought on Poshmark. Don't judge me. It was directed by Brad Silberling, who has been primarily a television director, but he also directed Casper the Friendly Ghost, City of Angels with the great Nicholas National Treasure Cage, Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events, and then after Land of the Lost flopped in theaters, he understandably took an unwanted break from directing films until he did An Ordinary Man with Ben Kingsley in 2017. There are plenty of YouTubers and critics who just want to talk about how much this movie sucks. One of the common threads among them is that they are not Will Ferrell fans. They are Land of the Lost fans and sci-fi fans who are just upset with the different direction that Land of the Lost was taken. And some of their critiques are valid in that respect. I think what fans of the original series really wanted was a PG, family-friendly version with Brendan Fraser as the dad and a young Josh Hutcherson as the son. The fans were looking for something closer to Journey to the Center of the Earth, which made a lot more money, but I would argue it doesn't have the staying power and cult fanship that Land of the Lost 2009 has. I don't care what anyone says, this film does have an amazing underground fan base.
Will Ferrel is very hit or miss. Hit or miss this time.
Hit. It's a hit, definitely a hit.
I think it's definitely a hit. Like, I was really, really surprised. I actually liked it more than I thought I was going to.
Have you ever seen the original TV show?
No, never. No.
Ah, so what made you decide to come and see this today?
Will Ferrel. Agreed.
Will Ferrell, he's hilarious. He's been doing really good, so.
Ah, so he's continuing to do good?
Yes.
It's not going to be anything that you imagine Will Ferrell is going to produce for you. It's over the top. It's just enough corny, but actually with a good storyline.
It was really funny, but I'm a little iffy on the PG-13. I feel like it's a little inappropriate for little ones. I know, and I don't even have children, but it was kind of inappropriate.
Yeah, we heard this wasn't good for kids. Do you think kids could see this?
No.
No, why not?
Because some parts weren't appropriate.
Well, why do you think it's getting such bad reviews? I mean, it's got like a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, look what it's about. Land of the Lost. You have all these different things coming together in one little spot and going through a cave and going into another world. It's corny. That's what you'd think. But don't let your mind put you out of this movie.
You know what? Go in. It is what it is. Take it for what it is. Don't expect anything to, like, don't expect, well, actually, no, I really liked it. I thought it was really good. Just go in with an open mind and have fun.
You got to go see it, okay? It's off the wall, and if any inclination of the audience members laughing, I'd say about 85% of the audience members were a little bit out of control with laughter.
Really?
So many people avoided this film in theaters because of the source material it was tied to. But if they had just made an original sci-fi film called World of the Wild, or Space in the Stars, maybe Land of the Forgotten, it would have gotten way more people to give it a chance. Check out this film and tell me what you think about it. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Post your email in the chat if you want to be notified for my next video. And thanks for watching.